All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to Shared Space with Quida and Chap. Chapo, how are you doing this Father's Day, Juneteenth, holiday Monday? How you doing today?
All is well. I had a relaxing Father's Day. Didn't do anything. I think watched a bunch of old movies that nobody's interested in but me.
Listen,
Ate,
that's what
ate some good
Father's Day
food.
is all about. It's what is on your I need to do list.
Yeah,
I
and it was
love
refreshing. It was refreshing, really. I just took some time, relaxed, and hit Monday hard, cleaning and doing some stuff around the house. So, um, yeah. What's going on in
it.
the community? Because I did miss my walk on Sunday because we took a week off.
Yes, so Walk with the Doc every Sunday except for Mother's Day and Father's Day. We're at Lake Montebello at 9 a.m. And that is with the unofficial Voltrina the Collective, a program sponsored by Backyard Base Camp, or a program held by Backyard Base Camp. But Nicola, Khadijah, Perry, Lex, um, Khadijah, myself, all of us are a part of, like I said, Voltrina the
You,
Collective.
I just
And
say unofficial, but you guys are official.
I mean, we are. We definitely are official because we've been out there for so many weeks. We were out there last year, and now we're out there every Sunday, Lake Montebello, 9 a.m. We talk with a community or physicianal expert, mental health, wellness. We stretch, we walk around the lake, and then we do community connections. How can we build resources and create, more shared space, whether it's right here virtually or there at the lake or at someone's community event, whatever that may be. So, once again, let me tell you all who I am. I never even introduced myself. So I'm Laquita Chansey. I'm the founder and director of Baltimore Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes for folks who are unhoused. And we're working on putting together a tiny home university so that we can start teaching people how to design, acquire land, and start using some of these city grants for good and replace some of the blight in Baltimore. So go ahead and introduce yourself too, chat.
All right, I'm Chaplain Lovelace. I serve the community in Baltimore City full time, volunteer. Volunteer in the schools. I volunteered, prior to COVID, volunteered at juvenile detention centers. I need to recertify that. I just, where there's a need, I try to fill it and stand in the gap with my gifts, just like Quita and our other people in our tribe do. Um, I'm excited. Dason was cleaning up over East and did a big Father's Day event over East this weekend. Dason Brooks with Level Up. Uh, let's see. Coach Tagana Duncan had a father-son basketball game down McCullough Homes. We had a guest from the Wizards show up, the Harlem Wizards. King Arthur showed up and showed some love. What else? We're working on a super secret August event. Not really secret, but it's just not. We're getting things lined up for a giant Battle of the Bands um, marching band competition, which will end at Rash. We're going to go through the harbor and end at Rash Field. And at Rash Field, we're going to have kind of our Power Fest, a mini Power Fest event where we're going to have a lot of community partners out. Um, some basketball events, car show, things like that. So it's going to be a really big event. Looking forward to that in August. And July 29th, we have the Hive collective for youth, community youth organizers and advocates are all going to collaborate and get together and just have a think tank and do some networking. So looking forward to that on June 29th over on East 31st. And we can share that information later, or you can Google the Hive. We spoke with those guys last week. So today, one of our early guests from early on when we first started doing this show, and a magnificent advocate for students and youth and education and undocumented families and victims of you know anything and everything and adopted foster care and like everything you can think of. This lady is just an advocate for life and love and people. And so Blanca Tapawasco, if you'll introduce the guest that you bring with us today.
Well, thank you. And all that work that you just mentioned, it cannot happen without pillars of support. One of the pillars is Chap, one of the pillars is Quida, and I'm happy to introduce another pillar who is Karen Yosefat Bellick. She is actually running for Baltimore City School Board. And we met at an event that was exactly related to the thread that actually connects the four of us, and that is education. Um, and I am impressed I'm impressed to know the three of you. Why? Because we know that children cannot leave a legacy if they cannot thrive and live in the today. I always tell my children that there is no future if I as your mom can prepare you today. But we also know the challenges. Quita and I have had extensive talks. There are very real, actual challenges that need to be addressed because the home sometimes is not the safest place. Sometimes school is not the safest place. So I am thrilled to share with you Karen, who is in a safe place right now, in order for us to really synergize and say, what do I know? What what experience do I have? And who do we know that's going to make this happen for the students? Because the students can't be a pandering political pawn opportunity. They are really living individuals who have needs specific, just like I did when I was an ESOL student at 10 years of age. And so Karen has a platform, and I would love for her to share. And it is exciting. The more I learn about her, I know that she will make a great servant for the school board.
Wow, thank you so much, Blanca. I guess you guys want me just to talk?
Yeah, so I will share with you when the announcement came up through the grapevine that the positions were open. I actually seriously considered doing what you're running for and for the board. Unfortunately, one of the requirements was that your children, you have a child. At the time when I looked at it, you had to have a child in the public school system, which I'm not willing to do in Baltimore City at this time. So that kind of disqualified me. So I'm encouraged by people who are willing to step up, and I just want to hear, what is your view on the role? How can you help the situation? Because honestly, I don't think it can get any worse. Knock on wood. But there's some huge gaps in what's going on right now. So I guess share with us how you can fill in some of those gaps.
Well, first and foremost, thank you all for having me here. I really appreciate the ability to share with people. Whoever's listening, I'm sharing with you guys. And I just want to say that this is a position. It's not the be all and end all to all the problems that are going on in our city. And I don't think any one position can deal with everything. So, first and foremost, we all have to understand that everybody's going to have to play a part, and everybody has to do, and each of you all are doing pieces, but they're all pieces of one giant puzzle here. So, I'm stepping up for one that's near and dear to my heart, and that's education. Um, I'm an educator. I've never worked in Baltimore City. I've been teaching since I was 17 in a variety of different areas. I'm 63 and 5/6. I was teaching my grandson fractions, so we're into fractions now. And I am really, truly, I went into a school, and I'm not even going to mention which one, and my jaw has not gotten up off the floor because when you become a candidate, everybody sends you a survey, and they want to talk to you, and they want your opinion, and they want to know if they should support you. And I'm like, I am me. I don't change because you sent me a survey. I'm not going to answer the survey the way I think I want you want me to answer. I got to tell it like I really believe it. And so one of the groups sent me to a school to shadow for a day. And we had a little bit of they say, oh, are you available like tomorrow morning? And I'm like, I live by my calendar. No. But we worked it out, and I went in, and I'm still shell shocked at what I saw.
And
So
I understand that maybe for tonight you don't want to share that information, but I think it's important that you do because there's every school has different problems, but we don't. It's like the snitch rule. Like snitches get stitches. If we don't talk about it, nothing changes.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what I saw,
Well,
but
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what I saw in
Right.
that 1 4-hour period of time. And
Right.
that's not fair to the school that that's a snapshot.
Okay.
That's all I've got. But I was in a classroom that was teaching ninth grade biology. The bulk of the class, I believe everybody in the class was a language as a second, English as a second language learner. And all I came out of there with was they're losing such learning opportunities because they're not learning English and they're not learning the subject matter. And at that point, and I've been a big believer of it, if you move to America, learn English. That was my thing for a very long time. I moved to a different country when I was younger and we learned the language. And I'm thinking, but these kids are coming in and they're coming in at all different stages. How can you put them in a class and expect them to know the material? Teach them the material to the best of their ability, because not all of them were Spanish speakers either. At least teach them the material in a language they'll understand, and then really focus on English language. And that was just one thing I came out with. This is a school that was rebuilt, and I was told that it was built, it was set up 10 years ago. Ground didn't break until 2 years ago. It was set up
2019.
for 900 people, and there's 1,500 students in it. They don't have room. They're not finished. They're almost at the end of the year. There's not running water in classrooms that if you're teaching a specialty, you need it. There, Chap, stop that. That's not nice.
That's between us. They don't see that. But yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
but anyway, it's like, and then I have my own issues down the street. I live in Upper Park Heights. They've just torn down Cross Country Elementary Middle School. Now, at some point, it became a middle school conglomeration. First of all, I don't believe middle school needs to be with elementary school. I don't think that's appropriate. And I also don't believe that middle school should be with high school. I really believe that middle school needs to be its own entity. But 6 blocks up the street, we've got another middle elementary school going on. And here they're building this magnificent, gorgeous, from the picture that they posted outside the construction site, this gorgeous thing. It's my personal opinion that it all needs to be elementary school and put the middle schoolers near where they can have sports and they can have outdoor activities and they can have their electives. There's no room down there for the kids to move. I don't think there's going to be room for the little bitty playground that the entire neighborhood was using in the afternoons and on the weekends. It's just not going to have space for it. I don't know where the people are going to park. There's no parking there either. There's no parking lots. It's just a little block.
Can I say at least the kids are using the playground space, because over southeast of John Rora, my kids are scared to use a playground after hours because the principal bullies them and she'll punish them from using the playground during school hours. So they don't even use it after hours because they don't want to get in trouble. They want to keep their little recess.
Dad, I'm going to tell you that not a single student that goes to those schools lives in the neighborhood.
That's another problem. That's data driven, and we've talked. I've talked on Donnie's show about that with some of the people that write the rules, and we try to explain to them why their rules are dumb.
Well, there's nobody here that's not neighborhood to use the playground after hours, because they all walk up the streets. They're walking 6 blocks up the street to catch the bus to go elsewhere. So there you go. That's what's going on. And again, not 6 blocks away down Park Heights Avenue, or up Park Heights Avenue, I guess, is another middle elementary school, or elementary middle. And it breaks my heart. So that's just that. And then, so you don't have resources in classrooms in new buildings. You don't have running water where you need it. You don't have tools in shop. You don't have student participation. I sat there. The kids were all on their cell phones. I'm the oldest of all of you. We don't have cell phones in class, people. You do pack them, put them away. You're here to learn. And then I found out about this we went to a blended thing where sometimes I teach and sometimes they're on the computer learning. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
let's go to my particular bent. On my little business cards, it says, teach each student according to the way they learn. All right. So
Absolutely.
their learning is very different. 7% of the population learns frontally, where the teacher teaches from the front of the room. Okay.
Wait,
Another,
what was that stat?
7.
about
7%.
7%. Yeah, I'm a brain.
Okay, I was going to say, because I don't think it's working for a lot of us. I thought you said 70. Okay, I'm okay with 7.
Okay, about 7% learn that way and do great. About another 40 or so percent, and sometimes those numbers change. So I just have to, don't put it in stone there. But about another 30 to 40% learn with struggle. And the rest of them do not learn that way. Now, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And I know when
What does that mean? I'm sorry. What is
I
kinesthetic?
learn by doing.
Okay.
And then so you've got kinesthetic, which is learned by doing. You've got auditory, so they can hear it and learn it. You've got visual, and then you have combinations. So it happens to be that while I can sit and read something, if you say it out loud and I'm doing it as you're saying it, that's my best learning. And if you're teaching me something that needs intricate work, because I'm a crafter, then I need to see it, but I need to hear you tell me what you're doing. So if you're not teaching me according to my learning style, I'm not going to get it. And I heard you say, Chap, I was watching the interview with Ashley, and I heard you say that you learn a certain way. You did really well in that modality, but struggled in school.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I struggled in school. I think, and one of my things is, as we I just want to comment real quick. Let's see. Quandra said teachers need to understand that they have different types of learners in the classroom. Absolutely, Quandra. And one thing I've said before on the show and other shows and town halls as well is that, like, if we look at our past and we go beyond the creation of public schools, when we were more of a village type, tribe type, even as colonizers in a village, we, like the people on the screen, would all be teachers, right? And we would all pour our knowledge and experience into one individual child at a time in our community.
yes.
And that's how we taught. And then we flip the script and fast forward 100 years. And now we have, instead of having 20, 30 adults in a community, each attending to each child in the community on an individual level, now you have one adult just giving rhetoric from one opinion of one subject to 40 kids, disseminating it to them, like you said, from frontal and just, auditory or whatever. And if it takes a whole village to raise each child individually, then how can we expect good results when we're putting one adult with all the responsibility in front of like a class of 30, 40 kids? How are we getting quality education to begin with? But since we're going to force our culture and society in America to teach this way, how do we do that? How do we make it more successful? Because it's obviously not working in Baltimore City.
But Chad,
Period.
let's be real. Like, systemically, it's working exactly the way it should, right? Like, these schools and these kids that are being impacted are in low income areas. And schools train you to be factory workers, not to think for yourselves. And this is what the system as a whole has demeaned these particular neighborhoods to. Because when you go to a private school, which is in a better Roland Park area, so to speak, there are fewer students and more teachers. So it's not that we don't know that this is the best type of learning. It's that the budget doesn't go to the schools. It's going to the policemen or to the falling infrastructure and no one cares about our kids.
That's another point. And I think that if you read not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but that's another point of falling infrastructure. So that strikes a nerve with me, because at the brand new 21st century schools, Patterson, the one in Cherry Hill, John Rora, even, we have brand new schools you built, nobody asked for, that are falling apart because you weren't willing to invest in the infrastructure that was already existing.
Chad.
Instead of upgrading it, fixing it, And to look, and to Blanca's point, she made a comment. She said square footage determines how many students are enrolled, and then if we don't have, I think in legislation it says if there's not 60% of the facilities being used, they close the school.
Yep.
Well, they also take data to drive moving the students around to manipulate the whole thing.
Right. So let me just tell one more statistic that I recently found out. The public-private prison system grossed $9 billion in services in 1 year in the U.S. So never mind the products that they're selling. Come to find out, most of those services are maintenance on the jails that these inmates are in, and that they're getting paid between 13 and 54 cents an hour to maintain these jails. So the reason our school systems are failing is because we can't make the children fix the schools that they attend like we do with prisons. Like, do you see, like, no one is thinking about maintenance. Like, it doesn't matter. Just build the buildings. The fat cats are going to get fatter. The whiting turners, not to say there's anything against them, but those are the names that we know. They're going to keep building these schools, not hiring anybody local. Chap, you're on mute. But Karen, I know you wanted to add something too, because I can go on and on and on and on about it. Like,
I'll just say that whoever is building schools, quality control, it's not happening.
Yeah, but it's not. Like, but just to know like how corrupt and ill thought the system is, and then we find out these things and it's like, well, aren't y'all going to change it? And they're like, nope, this is kind of this school to prison pipeline. It's not going to fix itself, so let's go ahead and get these kids in this bad, they don't know how to read, we say that they can't sit still, like the material isn't really challenging, all these different things, and it's all
they're not teaching children in a way. All right, so here's in a perfect world, okay? I've got a vision of my perfect world, right? So I want to start something called elective immersion, starting it in like the 3rd grade. You take, how many sets of 6 weeks do we have? 36 would be, 6, 7. If we got 42 weeks of school, maybe we need a week at the beginning and the end. I don't know how many weeks the kids actually go to school when you count them by week. So you start in the 3rd grade, and every 6 weeks, the kids get 5 days a week, an hour a day. And this may be extending the day an hour, but that's an hour more of supervision, and they're not out on the street, right? And then they really get to know different things. Now, I really believe one of the inequality issues comes from the fact that children who are exposed to bigger ideas, more thoughts, more, oh, I could do that, more, oh, you know what, if I learn that skill, I can do this job. Those are kids who start to dream big. If you're not dreaming big, you don't have any reason to come to school to learn something so you can be the big thing you're dreaming about.
You sure you want to start a charter school? Forget the board. Let's, because that seems
it would have to be big enough for an awful lot of kids, because what we're doing is individualizing that kind of thing. So we start in 3rd grade, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Now, if they had 6, they've got 18 different electives that they've been exposed to. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they can either do a deeper dive or do more. Nothing caught their fancy. They didn't find an instrument they liked, or voice lessons, or drama, or poetry, or the lighting. Let me tell you how many jobs there are. When people say they want to go into film and industry, those are real world jobs. Yes, sir.
No, me.
Okay.
Trying to do more background. Do our kids have access to the arts right now?
I'm sorry?
Do the kids have access to the arts right now? Are they getting music education and instruments and singing and choir?
There is a whole big thing that they've got to have so much exposure to this, that, and the other over a period of years. And is it happening today? No.
I didn't think so. Okay. I thought I was misinformed, but okay.
No.
Could I add?
Yes, please.
I just want to add for Orchids, who is a nonprofit, they will come in to do an affiliation, but that's not citywide.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, even as a former teacher, I've taught at two schools, but I saw enough to let you know that the private school had more collaboration and more connection than a public school. Back to Quida's point that we can't expect a system, because it is a public school system, to elective immersion almost sounds like what we wanted to do. Remember, Karen, what I told you? I wanted to open up Da Vinci Collaborative, which was a charter school, high school, year round, year round. And so, but my point is that until we actually have the conversation of what can be possible, I believe that every child by the age of 7, because data shows you that, can learn not just one language but two, not just one instrument but have appreciation for the overall of arts, not be able to just write and read. By 3rd grade, a person should be able to read, write, and communicate to a level that is cohesive, and it's also compelling. And that's not happening. That's by 3rd grade. And that is not me, but data shows that that is what, if a child cannot read by 3rd grade, they will suffer for the next 9 years.
Well, I will say this, there are other countries across the great ocean that don't even start teaching reading until 3rd grade, but then it's a concerted effort. And that because the eyes don't naturally team for infield, near field work. So we in this country have a lot of people wearing glasses, and it starts in about the 3rd grade, because when your eyes begin to naturally team to do near field learning, their eyes are so strained trying to read earlier. But in those countries, reading is something takes about a week because that's all they focus on, and the kids get it.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of what the focus is. If you're telling kids already in 3rd grade, you can't read, you're stupid, or why can't you read, or you're not applying yourself, or so on and so forth, they're not going to. It's a whole systemic change that would need to be happening. So I agree with her. But anyway, let me go back to my elective immersion because it's my pet. So you've got this whole thing going on where you have all of these things that children are exposed to. By the time they're in 9th grade, they're already going, you know what, I really like this, or I want to be a singer. And we've had voice lessons, we've had music lessons. Well, there's no reason why you can't bring in a voice teacher and teach you. They're not getting private singing lessons, but a voice teacher can come in and teach a group of kids for 6 weeks. And it's like there's got to be I don't know, I would love for there to be room in the budget to expose children to all these ideas. If a kid says, oh, I want to build bridges because they learned about that in science in the 4th grade, well, okay, that's great, let's build some things. What might we need to know about building bridges? Do you need to know about angles for bridges? And then suddenly the rationale for learning algebra becomes real. I don't use algebra. Well, I used it in graphing, and I used it in my artwork, and I used it in my string art. But I
Use it
didn't
in
use it up
carpentry.
all the equations. What?
I said use it in carpentry all the time. I hate it.
Absolutely. But if you don't need it, you're not banging your head against the wall learning it in a
Right,
vacuum.
right.
If I know what I want to be doing, then learning the skill that's always being reflected back to the real world job that I want to be learning and doing, that
Makes sense.
makes sense.
Right. Right. And then you get the buy-in. And then also it gives that child the ability to experience different things. But more importantly, they get buy-in for the curriculum that they are agreeing to.
Accountability for
Like,
your own.
I want to do this. I'm interested in this. So for graphic design, I need to know what. Yes, please give me coding because that's going to help me with graphic design.
And the teacher is always referring back to, why are we learning this piece? Because that's going to reflect over here when you want to do this piece of graphic design.
Right. Right, absolutely. And again, Quandra is talking about the things that we talk about, like visual arts, home economics, metal shop, carpentry. All that stuff used to be in school, like back in the
Life
90s.
skills.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
and I
home
have a
ec,
comment.
all of that. Go ahead, Chad. What'd you
I
say?
definitely have a comment on this because so there's a teacher who actually moved out of the city because these arts weren't being taught. Dr. Hood Mincy, she has a singing group called the Singing Sensations. They're fantastic. She takes Baltimore City kids overseas, teaching them to sing. Super famous choir. They're amazing. We got to get her on the show. Um, and I say that she also gave me the insight on what we're talking about here as far as how it articulates and translates in the community. So our kids aren't being taught to express themselves artistically, whether it's music or physical media or drama and acting.
Cooking, baking, cake decorating. These are real world skills.
So what do they do with this if they can't express themselves? What it translates to is like quite directly into violence in the community because you don't have an outlet to express your frustration, your anger, your joy, any of it, and it's all just building up until it explodes. And I feel like if I did research and looked at when did we pull it out of the schools and when did really violence take an uptake in Baltimore, because it's always been here, but I think you could make a comparable argument for that. Is that if our kids can't express themselves, then there's going to be more negative energy being put out in the community
Right.
because they're not able
So
to express themselves.
before we move on, one of the things that, like, I'm big on is, yeah, we can bash the school systems, but solutions. So one of the things that I was thinking about was me as a nonprofit organizer. Like, at some point, I'm so eager to share my mission with children that I'll go anywhere for free. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, reaching out to those people who are as equally into pouring into children and pouring into the community to come to the school, get your little fingerprints, get your little background check, do whatever it takes, right? Maybe even get a grant to pay for the $75 or $65 fingerprinting and background check, maybe pay them $100 or not, because people like us show up for free to pour into the community, whether it's an after hours at Rex or during the school day when we can come and read and learn and grow together. Because the problem is, again, this seems so out of space, so out of the world that people aren't going to buy into it. So there has to be some sort of pilot or proof that, one, children want it, they're going to be more engaged than they were before, because why else would we do it? And then three, that there is some sort of benefit. Like, they're like, hey, when are those people coming back to do our elective immersion? We did it last spring, like, we need to do it again. And so grant writing, partnering with other nonprofits, and figuring out how or what school community coordinators, whatever they're called, are willing to coordinate with like-minded organizations so that we can start this pilot situation, because we all know it's going to work. We all know the kids are bored with what they're doing in school now. And that, what were you calling it? I don't know, where they're visually learning or they're on their tablets. Like, that works to some degree. But these kids have so much energy. Like, that's silly to think that they want to sit there and play on their tablets. Like, they can do that at home.
Well, they don't have to. They just picked up their cell phone and played on that instead. And they did not follow because they couldn't understand what was going on on the tablets or on the computer to start with.
Anyway, right. And so that's a digital equity thing. And that's my jam as well. Like, we don't know how to use the tools. So if we don't know how to use the tools, we can't be engaged. When they break, we can't fix them. And if we don't understand the app to begin with, it's not going to be utilized. So trying to move fast forward and re-engineer everything isn't going to be the quick fix either. But engaging folks and understanding, okay, working with programs like Code in the Schools, they'll come to the schools for free and teach digital equity. And Block, to your point, there's a book called What Makes Children Succeed. And quite frankly, it's letting them know that there's more world than what they see in front of them. And understanding
My
that they
point.
need to go exactly, right? Like, we all understand that. So if we can continue that message show folks and put the numbers to it, because again, we got to prove everything that Abel has already proven 700 times over and Johns Hopkins has already proven 7 times over. But we're all capable of this work. And so I love the idea of, one, supporting you, Karen, but also thinking of different ways that elective immersion is needed and why students would want it, and just continuing the idea and the conversation about it.
I have a real concern that starting it in the 3rd grade is wonderful. I don't know what to do with the high school now. I'm a big believer in VOTech, vocational technology. I'm a big believer that not everybody's going to going to college. I must be the only mother on the planet that told her son to drop out of college because it was not for him. He wanted to be a barber. And I said, why do you want to be a barber? He loves cutting. I said, why do you want to, cutting hair? And he does a fabulous job because he became a very wonderful barber. So why do you want to go to college? Well, grandma and grandpa were trying to say you have to go to college. You have to go, because it's this mindset that you have to go to college, which leaves you with debt and not necessarily a job. I said, and why do you want to go? I want to be a psychologist. Why do you want to be a psychologist? So I can listen to people and give them good advice. And I looked at him, I said, what do barbers do? He said, they listen to people and give them good advice. I said, why are you wasting your time and your money? This is not your path. I said, and you still have to go to barber college. You have to get the training. So my goal would be to get more community partnerships at the high school level. I've already spoken to a newspaper. Well, what if newspapers create school newspaper clubs, and then those people who are interested in journalism come in, they learn all the aspects of what it takes to put out a newspaper, and at this point, not only a print newspaper, but a digital newspaper, and they create their school newspaper. Well, by the time they've had that for 2 or 3 or 4 years, they're a trained workforce that can apply as already trained and get a job out of high school with no debt to college because they didn't really need that to go and work in the newspaper.
And Karen, listen, more importantly, they wouldn't even have to write for that newspaper. Now, they've already built a relationship, but they could start a blog. They can start their own thing. And so that idea is awesome. But then putting something on top of it, like how can all of these things be your entrepreneurship, your side hustle, something that you can start now? Because if they start in the 3rd grade, quite frankly, they can't work for anyone until they get into about the 9th or 10th grade. But they can start a business whenever the heck they want, right? So
junior achievement. I'm a big fan of junior achievement.
To that point, there's 2 young ladies that run is it Saturday or Sunday? Saturday morning show on BlackUSA.News, who are entrepreneurs at the age of 7 and, correct me if I'm wrong, 9, 7 and 11, something like that. It's a young lady and her cousin. And of course, they have a good support group of adults around them. But just to say that, yeah, there's no age limit, period. Like, you can start a business. 7 years old, she's running a business, hosting a podcast. Like, what?
But more importantly, that's a skill set, being able to write, whether you're interested or not, knowing that your story is important, putting your testimony out there, letting people understand whatever your plight was, that matters to somebody, because somebody needs the word, regardless of what that word is. And just instilling in folks that, hey, this might not be your passion, but this may be something that you're good at. Talking to folks maybe might not be my passion. I went to school for computer science so that I would work with machines, but it's kind of something I'm good at. So I might as well go ahead and use those gifts as they were to be intended, even though I didn't think this was what my jam was going to be. And just empowering folks,
look how many people you're reaching with your story, and then bringing other people's stories.
That part. So I love, what you're saying. We called that, when I was in high school, career exploration. And we went through and we, did all the different things. I learned COBOL. I learned how to program some stuff. I did some home ec. We built some stuff. But just, you can pick up hobbies that way too, right? And to your point, Karen, everybody has to put in those 10,000 hours to become the master of whatever it is. So whether they started in 3rd grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, or when you're 40, at some point you need to put it in. So you might as well go ahead and experience all these things and figure out which one is your jam or which
Well,
one
that's
you're
why I
good
wanted them to have the opportunities because, really, again, the word equity keeps being bandied about. But when I see county schools and more affluent communities, and the kids can take ballet, or they can take tap, or they can take horseback, or they can take tennis, or they can learn to play lacrosse, and I'm thinking, we don't have those in our schools.
Yeah,
Well, then instead, and our parents may not necessarily be able to afford them for their students, for
right.
their kids.
Outside of school.
So
Right.
if the school system can just extend itself a little bit, a
Yes.
little longer in the day,
Yep.
and give these kids those same equal opportunities,
Right.
then the one who really can be a fabulous tap dancer and go off on Broadway and be a tap dancer, or learn all different styles of dance
Hmm.
and be in shows, because that's a career. That's a real world career.
Right. Or if they choose to go to college, it looks good on their college application. If they choose to go into corporate world, it looks good on your resume. Like
Oh,
to your point, I went to county schools. My parents lived in the county all of me and my sister's lives because they understood the school system is likely to be better in the county. That's just what they knew moving from New York and New Jersey, right? So I had all of those things. We were able to take African dance. We were able to take
Wow.
ballet when I was in middle school. I went to a magnet school. I went to vocational high school. And me, I'm thinking that all these things are normal. But again, when I went to apply to college, I looked like an excellent student on paper because I had all of this exposure, when really it was just my matriculation through school. Like, because
Uh-huh.
outside of school I had to work. Like I had a job and that wasn't as glamorous as all those other things. So these are
But it
things that they're
showed that
missing
you
out on.
went to work.
and
Yes.
I'll
Right.
be honest, like in Baltimore, if like some of my local, some of my community businesses is looking for help, and they see that Baltimore City high school diploma, it's kind of like, oof, this guy, you'll vouch for him because they need that extra, they need that extra because they're coming out of Baltimore City public schools because we just
So I
employers
have an
are looking
idea.
at that as well.
I have another idea. You ready? Okay. You don't go to work without wanting to get paid. Am I correct, Chap?
Of
Quida?
course.
Blanca? Everybody goes to work and they want to get paid. All right. So at one point in some of the schools that I've been in, they gave out raffle tickets. If you gave the right answer, you did whatever. At the end of the week, they drew one kid. That kid got the raffle prize. I was like, are they out of their minds? That would be like the whole office going to work, and at the end of the week, they were going to pull a name and go, oh, Bobby, you're going to get a paycheck this week, but the rest of you aren't. But thank you for doing such a great job, right? I'm like, no, 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 no. So when I taught, everybody got tickets, and I had a ticket store, and what you earned is what you got to spend or save for something bigger. Now, give me a second. Incentivizing our students, and I have one plan. I've got a lot of ideas. Here's one I'm going to give you tonight. You get good grades in your what you need to get, and you maintain a B average. Blanca loves this one.
Mhm.
And we will pay for your driver's ed.
Hello.
Excuse
Well,
me, when I went to school, driver's ed was part of school, and now kids have to come up with $200, $300, $400 a piece to take it, pay one teacher to teach a class.
Ms.
Yep.
Bellick, let me take it a step further for you and why
Wow.
for Baltimore City that wouldn't work. And
No, no, there are schools in the city that offer it. There's like two
but
schools that offer
here's
it.
what I mean is why it doesn't work for my young men in the community, because I speak for the young men because that's who I serve and that's what I
Please.
was, who I am. So for young men in Baltimore City, let's say there's a program to help me pay for my driver's ed. I got my driver's license to be a black male in Baltimore City under the age of like 23 or 21 to have the privilege to drive a vehicle. My insurance is going to cost me at least $750 a month.
My son was part of that.
So I'm saying that most of the marginalized communities that we serve, where young men are at that age, may be even raising their parents. A lot of our parents are addicts. They may be raising their siblings or their own children at that age. Um, So $750 a month just to have the privilege to drive. You haven't put gas in the tank, you haven't paid for rent, and you haven't fed your family yet. That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is. Well, there was that great idea.
No, I'm just saying, just so
I'd like to add.
for a certain context, it wouldn't work. But we have
But
about,
like you said, you have one of many programs that might work for somebody who has a job in Perryville, or family that lives outside of Baltimore that they have to visit all the time and they pay an Uber. Like, you just never know. And I think, Karen, that speaks to meeting folks where they're at, because my needs are going to be different than Chap's needs, than Blanca's needs, than your needs. And having a slew of things for folks to choose from would be dope.
One of my superpowers is connecting people. So if I find that people over here have these skills and people over here need these skills, I like to match them up. I don't go into anything, not this race, not anything in life, thinking that I'm the only one who has all the answers. You got 8 wonderful people who are running for 2 seats. I think we should all run as a team and have 2 voices for all 8 of us, because everybody stepped up to the plate and we're all coming from slightly different, but we all believe in the same things. There's really very little that's not an overlap. Okay. Happens to be my elective immersion is my idea, but everybody's got great ideas.
Well, that's what I wanted to bring it back to, because we got 9 minutes left before Robert comes on with the Robert report. So I wanted to bring it back to, again, the position. If you can share the specific name of the position you're running for, what people can do to support, when do they vote, things like this. Like, what is, just give us a, in summary, what can we do to help? What exactly are the details?
My little tag, so I remember who I am. All right. So the position is, for the first time, the Board of Education has 2 elected positions. So everybody is scrambling because it's never happened before in Baltimore City. We're trying to move to a hybrid where perhaps more of those positions on the school board will be elected. But right now we've got 2 seats that will, I'm going to say, answer to the families, to the parents, to the constituents who vote you in. Election day is in person on July 19th. It kept getting moved back and back as they were redistricting and changing the borders. This vote is citywide. There are no districts. I'm running from this side of the city to this side of the city. A lot of people don't know me, and that's why I really appreciate having the opportunity to reach more people, to let them know I exist. There's early voting starting earlier in July. I believe July 12th is the last time to request a write-in ballot. You must request it to get one. They will not send you one just automatically. It's the Board of Education, and I am Karen Yosefat-Bielik. Now, I have a couple of things. One, my website, if you'd like to make a donation or volunteer or whatever, is Karen for Education, KARENFOR education.com. I created, again, remember I said I'm all about communication. I'm all about working with people. My Facebook group that I started a page and then realized that you couldn't come on and make a comment. So we started a group called Karen, the number 4 education on Facebook. And that is like facebook.com/groups/Karen, the number 4 education, is where if you have a topic you'd like to start a conversation with, you can go in and you can just do it. My only rule on that is that you have to be respectful. I don't want dirty language. I don't want foul language. I don't want people being mean to each other. You must be respectful or I'll pop you out. But other than that, I'm only a moderator. I'm offering a place for the conversation to continue. I know that the teachers have a wish list for projects that they want to do that they don't have a budget for and they can't afford on their own. Please go in and write about what you'd like, and then put a link, because I understand the teachers have a link to their pet projects. And then if you talk about it, then people who come to that page to the group can see oh, I like this idea. I'm going to send them money. So that's how you reach me. That's how you donate. And I love the fact that people are joining the conversation, because the more that we talk with each other, the more ideas get shared. And like, I didn't know what Chap just said about the guys not be, and it's true. And I just hadn't put two and two together. But there are
Right.
people who it would work for. But incentivizing the kids in some way, what happened to field trips? What happened to all these things that would broaden people's minds? Yes, sir.
I got another comment on that. So because I volunteer in the schools, one of my guys at John Rora, an eighth grader named Ahmed Najari, he started a GoFundMe page, and he said, "Chat, please share," because his narrative is that in the last 2 years, his class has, like his middle school career, he's never been on a field trip because of COVID. And now they're offering one at the end of this year. However, a lot of the kids, because he's in a densely populated area that experiences poverty or undocumented families and different things like this. It's a lot of nuances in that community. Weren't able to go on this field trip, and he was trying to raise like just $2,500 to make sure every person in his class could enjoy a field trip before they all break up and go to high school. And so that's just one person's story. That's just one kid who's like really
If you
a
guys
kid traumatized by this.
touch
Really,
with him, ask him to come on and write respectfully and nicely his story and what he tried to do, because I'm assuming school is out and it's over.
it is.
That's too bad. I wish we'd known about it.
But that's the thing. Like, I love that you're already speaking our language. Like, you're also sharing space, right, for people to join with one another. And it's so important, because it's like, if you are excluding somebody, then some way, somehow you're supporting white supremacy. Like, we don't need anything to be marginalized. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need anyone or anything to be marginalized. All voices count, regardless of how stupid or dumb we think it is. They deserve to be heard. And we on this screen are the folks that are like, yes, they do. They do, even if you're not speaking the same language, you understand where they're coming from. It's necessary. Go ahead.
That also bespeaks a person being willing to speak up. And sometimes we need to be the ones that speak up for the underdogs.
Absolutely.
Also kind of, I've done my whole life. If you're not one to speak up, I'm going to talk to the teacher on your behalf.
Same here. Like, oh my God, littlest thing in the classroom, but standing up to all the bullies. Girl, if you don't go sit down, but still, it's like, you're not going to talk to her like that. Don't snatch that pencil. That has nothing to do with you, sis. Go sit
Not
down.
just in the classroom. I seen her do it in real life.
Listen, Chap, stop it. So this was beautiful. We're going to have to get you on again. And then remind us one last time, what is the date that folks need to pay attention to vote?
July 19th.
Okay.
Live. Find us. Now, just know, nonpartisan. I'm wearing purple because we cannot separate red and blue for our children. We must come together. There can be no Democrat or Republican point of view. It's got to be purple. It's got to be red and blue come together, and all the other. We're going to be on every single ballot.
Democrat, I'm mad I didn't think about that.
Republican.
Damn you. I said I'm mad I didn't think about that. The purple, man. That's dope.
I love that.
That's why I'm in purple. I wear purple because it's like, it's a group. We are the village. There are children. They don't come into this world. Oh, you're a Democrat child. You're a Republican child. You're a Libertarian child. You're a Green Party. You're an independent.
Right. Like Wanda said, we loved it. We love your passion. We love your ideas, Karen. We're going to have you back. Please. We have to wrap up so that Robert does not kill us. And Robert report at 8 o'clock. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll see you next Monday at 7. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.